Today I thought I would talk a little bit about the 5 pitch patterns that are used in Kansai Ben. I've seen a lot of content about standard Japanese and the standard Japanese pitch patterns, but I haven't really seen a lot of English content explaining the 5 patterns in Kansai Ben. So first I thought we'd go through, how do you notate Kansai Ben? How does it differ from standard Japanese? I'm going to assume you have some knowledge, some pitch knowledge of standard Japanese before you head into Kansai pitch. So we're going to talk about, how these patterns, how the standard ones differ from standard Japanese and how these ones work. Okay, so let's just get started with pitch notation. Pitch notation is pretty simple. There's 2 main systems that you work with. So a lot of the time you'll notate things with an H or an L, indicating, high or low. So for example, a word like kawaii would be notated high, high, low, low in Kansai Ben. Because it starts, the first mora is high, the second mora is high, then the third mora is low, and the last mora is low. Another system that's used in dictionaries like Nikkoku is to use these brackets to indicate a high register and these parentheses to indicate a low register. And this is useful because, contrary to standard Japanese, Kansai Ben has 4 different pitch ranges. So Kansai Ben can be a lot higher and a lot lower than standard Japanese, which is why just having low or high can be kind of deceiving in a way. Which is why you have low register and high register to convey that it's not just one mode. Okay, so how you would notate a word like kawaii is high register until the drop, which is on wa. And it's always written in katakana like this. Okay, that's about all for the pitch notation. There's some other stuff that's written in some of the resources that I'll link that notate a bit differently, but if you read how they think about notating stuff, it'll make a lot more sense, I think. Okay, so let's just go into the first pattern here, which exists in standard Japanese as well, but is a bit different in the way that it works. So how it works is that every single heiban word in Kansai Ben always starts high. So there are some words in standard Japanese that also start high. I noted some of these here, like kantan, koukou, oshu. These all start high even in standard Japanese. And this is because if the second mora in a word is either a special mora like or a long vowel, the word becomes entirely flat, the entire thing, not just the rest of it. There's also some useful things to pay attention to in Kansai Ben, which is that a lot of 2 mora verbs are almost always either heiban or low high. So the reason why this difference is important is because these sound very similar if you haven't practiced Kansai pitch. They sound pretty much identical. At the beginning, at least for me, they sounded identical. So I have some examples here of heiban words from a Kansai native that I thought we'd take a listen to.
なんか近所の公園に行ってもね、自然って感じがね。なんか近所の公園に行ってもね、自然って感じがね。カーがめっちゃうざい。カーがめっちゃうざい。
So as you can hear, if you're at all familiar with standard Japanese, this sounds a lot higher. It's pretty similar to, the standard Japanese heiban, but there are some key differences in that I thought were, important to note. Largely that every single verb, every single word even, starts high no matter what, and ends high. Okay, so moving on to Otomadaka. It's pretty much identical to standard Japanese. So standard Japanese also has the first mora be high and then the rest is low. So I picked up 2 words here that I thought would be interesting to look at. So yutara and aite. So yeah, let's just listen to them.
多分そういうことだよな。だからワンセットなんかもな、言うたら。
言うたらわかるじゃないよな。
多分そういうことだよな。だからワンセットなんかもな、言うたら。
言うたらわかるじゃないよな。低めな人やと相手がね。低めな人やと相手がね。
As you can hear, they don't really differ much between standard Japanese and Kansai Ben. So let's move on to the first unique pattern in Kansai Ben, which is nakasagari. So nakasagari starts high and then drops before the last mora. So a great example of this are Kansai Ben adjectives are all nakasagari. There's a rule in Kansai Ben that before the last 2 mora, it'll drop. So every single 3 mora adjective is atamadaka. Like in standard Japanese, yabai would be 2. But in Kansai Ben, it would be yabai, written like this. So I thought we'd take a listen to a Kansai native saying kawaii, just for a reference.
Kawaii. Kawaii. Kawaii.
If you can't hear the hi, that's perfectly fine. I just want to introduce the different patterns and give you like a rough idea of what they sound like. So when you're listening in your own immersion, you can, get a better grasp on these pitch patterns. Moving on to shiriagari. This is, in my opinion, the most Kansai Ben-like pitch pattern. When I hear this, it just screams Kansai Ben to me. So how shiriagari works is that it starts low and is low until the last mora in the word. So in standard Japanese, you would hear kaiwa completely flat, but in Kansai Ben you would hear kaiwa, kaiwa. We'll have some clips here to show that as well. One unique thing about shiriagari that doesn't exist with other pitch patterns in Kansai Ben is that the particle can change and delay the realization of the pitch drop, or the pitch rise, rather. Particles on their own have pitch. So for example, ga always attaches high to where, where it can attach high, so to shiriagari and heiban, and ya always attaches low to shiriagari and heiban. So for this one you would say kaiwa ga, but this one you would say kaiwa ya. And we'll listen to this Kansai native also say kaiwa demo, which doesn't shift the realization of the pitch on kaiwa. So yeah, let's just take a listen.
一応関西弁の会話でも一応関西弁の会話でも
So as you can hear, I think this pattern is the most stereotypically Kansai Ben-ish pattern. And it's very easy to hear as well when you're immersing. Okay, so moving on to the last pattern, it's nakadaka, which is essentially the same. It's pretty similar to standard Japanese with some key differences that I'm going to note here. So Kansai Ben nakadaka starts low, goes up at some point, and ends low. But one thing that doesn't happen in standard Japanese is that the second mora can be low. And it can actually be low however many mora, just as long as it goes up for one mora and then it drops low at the end. So a relatively common pitch pattern in Kansai Ben is that 4 mora words are pretty often low, low, high, low, or low, high, low, low. And I thought we'd take a listen to low, low, high, low just to get a feel for it.
なんとなくね、はんなりしている気がします。なんとなくね、はんなりしている気がします。
So, as you can hear, I think this is a pretty distinct sound as well. It almost sounds stressed if you're not used to Kansai Ben pitch. But listening for this is pretty much the same process as listening for nakadaka in standard Japanese. So if you have that down, I don't think this pattern will be very hard either. So to sum it up, the Kansai Ben heiban pitch pattern is very similar to standard Japanese, except that the first mora is always high. So all the mora are always high. Atamadaka works the exact same as standard Japanese. Nakasagari starts high, then drops somewhere before the end. Shiriagari is low until the end, and whether the particle attaches high or low can affect where the rise actually realizes in the word. And nakadaka works pretty similarly in Kansai Ben, except that it doesn't have to go up on the second mora. It can go low, 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 high, low. It can go however many low, just as long as it's a high before the last low. If you want to learn more Kansai Ben or find more resources, I'll link Discord that me and my friend created just for learning Kansai Ben, as well as just having a community to talk about Kansai Ben stuff and phonetics and pitch in general. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.